The oceans are under threat. Pollution and overfishing are driving down fish stocks and ruining the beauty of the sea. The ocean should be protected out of respect and the intrinsic right marine creatures have to live. Yet for those not buying these reasons for ocean conservation, there are plenty of economic and biological reasons humans need the sea. The ocean is an exciting place filled with unusual creatures. However, beyond its beauty, the sea is also vital to human health. People are dependent on the ocean for food, oxygen, medicines, and more. Studying this vast habitat and working to protect it should be important, not only to marine biology students and environmentalists, but to anyone who breathes, eats, or ever gets sick. Our oceans are in trouble. Too many fish are being caught. Too much other wildlife is being killed in non-selective commercial fisheries, and critical ocean habitat is being damaged by destructive fishing practices. These problems threaten the health and sustainability of our ocean ecosystems. Rahel Frank J. asks, why should we care about fish that cannot be used for food or as pets or bait? The utilitarian would say that we'd like to eat fish, and perhaps an obscure species might hold the clue to curing cancer. The ecological would say we do not know what losing a species will do to the circle of life. To the ethical and religious, each species has a right to exist, and humans have a moral responsibility to care for all of God's creation. I hope at least one of these arguments will come to a consumer's mind the next time he or she needs to justify conserving a species of the sea, or any species for that matter. Environmental groups want a zero catch limit, whereas the United States sought a quota of about 8,000 tons, a target supported by its scientific advisors. According to a statement released by NOAA, the ICCAT agreement on Eastern Atlantic Mediterranean bluefin tuna is a marked improvement over the current rules, but it is insufficient to guarantee the long-term viability of either the fish or the fishery. If stocks continue to decline, the NOAA supports the commitment to set future catch levels in line with scientific advice, shortening the fishing season, reduce captivity, and close the fishery. The United States and other countries have announced their support for including the Atlantic bluefin tuna in the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, known as CITES, but some Mediterranean countries and Japan oppose the move. In addition, because CITES has an opt-out clause, simply listing a species under it does not guarantee the species' survival. Major players in the bluefin market include the European Union, Japan, Canada, the United States, North Africa, and Mexico. With the exception of Canada, most countries do not reach quota levels because of the scarcity of the fish. In Japan, which consumes up to a quarter of bluefin, one tuna can fetch a price of more than $100,000. The bluefin is far from the first ocean species to be threatened with population collapse due to overfishing. In 1992, the Canadian government made the difficult decision to shut down its Newfoundland-based cod industry, putting tens of thousands out of work overnight and decimating dozens of traditional fishing communities. Fishermen had been catching fewer and fewer fish for years, but the ban effectively punctuated what once seemed impossible. The sea had run out of cod. Even with the ban, the species never recovered. By contrast, the state of Maine has revived its famous lobster stocks in a way that was more acceptable to both industry and conservationists. Regulations were passed to prevent lobstermen from trapping males before they bred and females that were showing eggs, and strict trap limits were rigorously enforced. The changes were resisted by some, but many who had been fishing the region for decades and were all too aware of the ongoing depletion saw them as a necessary change. A few years of lower than normal catches was better than long-term unemployment. The Maine lobster industry is comparatively small, but there are similarities between the crustacean and the bluefin in that, unlike cod, they are both sought-after delicacies that return high prices even when yields are low. And the lobster population recovery goes to show that a balance between profits and protection is possible.
We leave you this Sunday morning on Delaware's Slaughter Beach, a prime mating ground for horseshoe crabs.
Delaware Bay is the world's population center for horseshoe crabs, but during the past few years we've noticed a significant downturn in the animal's population, from 1.2 million spawning females to about 400,000. The ancient animal plays a critical role in the bay's ecology and human medicine. The crab's eggs fuel shorebirds migrating north to Arctic nesting grounds each spring. A compound in the crab's blood is used by pharmaceutical industry to test intravenous drugs as well as prosthetics for bacteria. There is concern, however, that the Delaware Bay horseshoe crab population is declining, and Delaware Sea Grant scientists are working to stem the tide. Although called a crab, the horseshoe crab is actually closely related to spiders and scorpions. It is also one of the Earth's oldest creatures, having appeared here 100 million years before the dinosaurs. Scientists have learned a lot about the human eye by studying the horseshoe crab's large compound eyes. The horseshoe crab also has numerous smaller eyes called photoreceptors on its top shell and along its tail. The horseshoe crab's sword-like tail, called the telson, isn't poisonous as some people believe. When the crab has been overturned, it simply uses its tail as a lever to flip itself on an upright position. The ocean is important to the carbon cycle, recycling the world's carbon dioxide and producing oxygen. In fact, as NASA points out in its September 2006 post, 9 years of ocean chlorophyll, about half of the oxygen humans breathe come from the ocean's phytoplankton. Vital to the existence of life on Earth, phytoplankton are single-celled marine plants that are also an important part of the marine food web. Understanding phytoplankton is essential given its huge impact on life. Perhaps the most obvious reason to protect the ocean is its role as a food source. Millions of people enjoy eating fish, and dietitians are increasingly calling fish a healthy food for its omega-3s. The American Association for the Advancement of Science notes that in their Atlas of Population and Environment, that humans receive 16% of their animal protein from the ocean. Further, they note that roughly 500 million people depend on marine harvests for their livelihood. Unfortunately, fish stocks around the world are collapsing, with half of the world's fisheries being harvested beyond a sustainable yield. This threatens many fish populations, including the delicious but critically endangered bluefin tuna. At the individual level, people can avoid releasing toxins into waterways, dispose of unwanted bait fish or pet fish rather than release them into the wild, and use techniques that maximize the survival of caught and released sport fish. We can support eco-labeling programs that identify species harvested at sustainable levels or with minimal bycatch. Dolphin Safe Tuna is one example. There is even a text message service you can use to rank seafood for sustainability while standing at the fish counter of your local store. www.blueocean.org/fishphone/index.HIML. We are emptying real estate that does not belong to us. Us being I. We are all interconnected. We are all brothers and sisters. We must learn to share all of our wonders of the world as one, to truly live in harmony.
Relax yourself, girl, be set to him. Relax yourself, girl, be set to him.